Amit sir, you can start now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is the voice quality good?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just give me a little more time. Fine. So today we have gathered to discuss about the Cisco's new set of exams, or basically the new theme of exams that we are slowly starting to see is happening to almost all the new Cisco exams that are coming out. Okay, and one of those exams is the N Auto. Okay, the Enterprise Automation exam, which is part of the CCNP exams. Okay, so in this, basically, since we are discussing the theme, we need to understand, since most of the Cisco exams are based out on what is happening in the industry. So this exam will also give us a glimpse of what is happening in the industry. Okay, so basically, as network engineers, what we all are doing most of the time is we are accessing the network devices that we have, mostly in the case of network engineers, pure network engineers, we are dealing with the routers and switches. Okay, the routers and the switches. So what we are basically doing with these types of devices is that we are either accessing them to write some new configurations on them, or basically push something onto them, or we are accessing these devices to get something out of them. Okay, that is to retrieve some information out of these devices. Okay, so that at the end of the day, these are basically the two actions that we are doing with these devices, right? So uh, now, till date, the different ways that we could we could basically do these two operations were primarily the CLI and the SNMP. Okay, so in CLI, basically there are two things, or the two technologies that are most commonly used, that is our telnet and SSH. Okay, so both of these ways basically help us to access the command line interface of these devices. And by accessing the command line interface, what we are able to do is we are able to run a set of commands that are given to us by the vendor itself. So either we are running show commands or we are running config commands. Okay, so that is the thing about CLI. If I go more in detail, now what is the problem with CLI? Okay, now the problem with CLI is that, as the number of network devices basically is increasing in the network, or as the time to deploy a new network or a new network device, the expectations on that time, as they are reducing over the time, it is becoming a very slow way, or a very incapable way of dealing with the networks of today. Okay, so basically, as we all know, CLI was developed so that humans can interact with the devices. Okay, and today humans are expected to deal not just with a single
Hi, Amit.
network device. Guys, can you please mute?
Amit, can you share your screen? I think it's not visible.
Okay, just a minute. Sorry, I'm extremely sorry, guys. um, so okay, so let's continue. So basically, guys, can you please mute?
Hey, Angadi.
Amit, actually, I have muted everyone. Sorry about that. I don't know who was that. Actually, it's a public session, so many people join. So, yeah, yeah. Now it's clear.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. So I have muted everyone, so you can
Yeah, yeah.
continue the session now. You can, guys, you can put down your questions in the chat, and Amit, if
Yeah,
anybody like you want to take any question, just they can raise hand. Okay.
yes, yes, sure.
Okay, so just to inform you guys, this is our new batch, which is Python for network engineers. But yes, you can call this Enterprise Auto also, which is a part of CCNP Enterprise. So those who want to give their CCNP and they want to learn automation, so definitely this is a good combo to learn with CCNP Enterprise. Okay, so yeah, Amit, you can go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Fine. So let's try to continue again, guys. So basically, as I was telling you, let me rewind a little bit. Okay, since we've had multiple interruptions. Fine. So basically what I was telling you is that the I was discussing about the theme of the complete network engineering industry, or the theme of the Cisco certifications, because the syllabus or the content of the Cisco certifications is pretty much in line with the theme of the industry itself. Okay, so what we were discussing is that basically, as a network engineer, most of the time we are working with devices like routers and switches. Okay, and in both of these devices, or even some other kind of devices, maybe like a firewall, or maybe like a load balancer, or even some other kind of device that might come to your mind, basically what we as network engineers do with these devices is that either we are accessing these devices to push some amount of information, or some configuration commands, and so on. Okay, or at some other times we are just trying to get some information out of these devices. So basically, at the end of the day, whenever we are trying to deal with these devices, we are either pushing some information, or we are getting some information out of these devices. Okay, and till date there have been primarily two ways of doing it, that is pushing information or getting information out of the devices, and those have been CLI and the SNMP. Okay, so in CLI we basically have two technologies, that is our telnet and SSH. Okay, and in both of these technologies, basically one of them is just unencrypted way of doing it, and SSH is the encrypted way of doing it. But at the end of the day, both of them help us to access the command line interface of these devices. And once we have that access, we are either running show commands, or in some other network vendors you can call them display commands. Okay, to get some information out of the devices, and in some other cases we are just basically accessing the CLI to do some kind of a configuration on the devices. Okay, now CLI has been good enough for the longest period that we know of. Okay, and the problem that has started to occur with the CLI is that in CLI, with CLI, we can not basically scale it up to the networks of today. Okay, when I say networks of today, these networks have become more and more critical. These networks have basically they cannot have downtimes. Okay, everything is dependent on the network. The company's revenues, the company's earnings, everything is dependent on the network at times. And uh, you know basically CLI was developed for human interaction with these devices, and uh, at a time any human can do one task. So with the CLI we could access just one router at a time, and manipulate the configuration or maybe check out some configuration on one particular device at a time. So basically this has over the time become the most unattractive way or incapable way of dealing with the networks of today. Okay, and then there is another technology that has been for almost the same amount of duration as the CLI has existed, and that is the SNMP. Okay, now the problem with SNMP is that most of the times we are the configuration of SNMP that you will find on devices will be in version 2C. Okay, which is one of the unencrypted versions of SNMP that is being used throughout the industry. Okay, and basically again it provides you the option to get information or push information, but SNMP does the task of pulling information in very small chunks of data. Okay, so basically with SNMP we have to deal with something called the MIB or the OIDs. Okay, if I had to show you what these OIDs look like quickly. So basically these OIDs look somewhat like this. Okay, and this OID is basically nothing but a way to go through the MIB, or which is a kind of a database that is there on your device. And with this particular address we can basically access a particular information, like if what is the current status of an interface, or like what is the current status of a BGP neighborship or an OSPF neighborship. Okay, so we have to deal with these complex OIDs or these complex addresses that can change as we go from a vendor to vendor, or if we go from one device to another device, these OIDs keep changing. Okay, so this way because is also not the best way when you are trying to deal with the networks of today to be able to make changes, because SNMP in today's network, if you'll see commonly, I'm not talking about the capability of SNMP, I'm talking about how it is being commonly used in today's world. And you will find that SNMP is being used just to get some information out of the devices. And over the time there have been multiple attacks related to SNMP on devices and so on, and due to which nowhere you will find that SNMP is being used. Almost nowhere you will find that SNMP is not being used for pushing any information on the device. Okay, so it is not being used for this particular purpose in like 99.9% of the environments. Okay, so in such a scenario, okay, what is the next step. Okay, everyone wants to know that what is the next step, and that is where basically things like the API come into picture. Okay, so that is our third way of accessing the devices, accessing the networks. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so API is something that has come out very recently, in the recent years, as early as some of the important RFCs have come out in 2006, and the latest protocols like the REST-conf. Okay, the RFCs for those have even come out as late as 2017. Okay, so it is a fairly new way of accessing our devices to be able to get the information. And nowadays most of the devices that are coming out, or most of the operating systems for the devices that are coming out from almost all vendors, are supporting this new way of accessing those devices and getting information out of them. Okay, so what do we basically do in the case of using the API to access the information is, what the vendors are doing on their devices is that what they do is, like, for example, if you look at any particular device, there are two kinds of data on that device. Okay, the first one is your configurational type of data, and the second one is your operational type of data. Okay, when I say configurational, it is things like, if I talk in the context of an interface, okay, to keep things simple, in the context of an interface, the configurational data would be something like a description of that interface. Okay, or maybe the IP address, IPv4 address of that interface would be something we can say is a configurational state. Or we can also say the admin state, whether if it is manually shut down or not. Okay, so these are something that you can say are configurational types of data about an interface on the router, let's say. And similarly, when I say operational kind of data, okay, on that same router would be something in the case, again in the context of interface, it could be the number of packets that have come in on the interface, the number of packets that have gone out of that interface, the number of errors that might have occurred on that interface, or things like that. Okay, so basically all these information, all this type of data, okay, you can categorize it as the operational type of data. Okay, so basically we used to look at both these kinds of data using our show commands in the CLI. Okay, but now what they have done, they have gone one step ahead, and using some data models, okay, that are specific to these different kinds of technologies that are running, or different protocols that are running on the devices. Based on that, they built data models for all the different information that has to be stored, and on that same router where you were just storing the information which was being accessed using the show commands, now that same information will be stored in a different kind of database. Okay, now database is a term that is slightly closer to the the internet world. Okay, the HTTP world, the web world. Okay, so they store this information also in form of databases that can then be accessed using a REST API call. Okay, now that same information that we were accessing using show commands, okay, that same information is now also stored in databases with the help of data models that basically construct that database. Okay, it's stored in the database, and now we can access this same database and access that same information which is kept in these databases using the REST API. Okay, now what is the benefit of doing that? We will try to understand that with the help of few examples that I have prepared for you. Okay, so what I'll do is, this is a Linux machine that I have with me. Okay, and this is a basic topology that I have prepared. Okay, so this is the machine that I am currently on, this one. Okay, and from this machine I have direct access to a normal router and one CSR router. Okay, so on the CSR router, basically what the kind of operating system that we have is the IOS XE. Okay, it is the Cisco IOS XE. Fine. So and if I go on a normal router, the operating, this is a IOS V router. So basically on this router, the operating system is a normal IOS. Okay, let me show you quickly. So it is a normal IOS software. Okay, Cisco IOS software. Whereas on a CSR, we have the IOS XE software. Okay, and now most of the new devices that are coming out of Cisco, if you talk about the IOS XR series or the 6800 series routers or any modern routers or devices, or even if I talk about the latest Catalyst 9000 series switches, so all these devices have this IOS XE software. Okay, and on this IOS XE software, we have to enable a very basic feature. Okay, that is, we have to enable the REST conf. Okay, I'll show you quickly. So there's a simple command that you have to run, that is, just a minute, that is REST conf. Okay, and it will basically enable the REST conf protocol and the same credentials. This is the command REST conf. Okay, so if you just type in, if you just go to config mode and type in REST conf, okay, and hit enter, that will enable REST conf. Okay, but there are certain requirements. Okay, sorry, I just closed it. There are certain requirements that are there. Okay, I'll show you those also quickly. Do show run again. That is, you have to enable the HTTP server, the HTTP secure server. Both of these you have to have a higher privilege. You have to basically create username, password on your device. Okay, so all these basic setups that you have to do for like something like an SSH, those things you have to do, but besides that, you just have to use the REST conf command to basically enable the HTTP server on that. Okay, so these are some other commands that have to be enabled. Generally we disable these commands, but in this case we have to enable it. Besides the REST conf command, we have to have the username, password, we have to have the line VTY enabled and all these things. So all the basic setups, and besides that you just have to use REST conf command, and this will enable REST conf. Okay, whereas on the normal router, we can access it using the CLI. In this case, this particular session is a console session, but I can also access the same router using SSH, and I have enabled SSH on that. Okay, so I just want to, with two examples, okay, I just want to contrast that how both of these scenarios work. Okay, so in the first example, I'm working with the NetMiko library. Okay, so in the basically the NetMiko library, what it does is it uses the in the background, what it is doing is it is basically accessing the device using the SSH protocol. Okay, and the IP address that I've used, as you can see, is 192.168.26.1. Just to show, I'll do show IP interface brief, and you can see that it has 192.168.26.1 on the device. Okay, so in that same I'll use that same IP address to SSH into the device using this script, and this script will basically take the output of show IP interface brief. Okay, so this is a very basic script. Okay, it will it will ask for my username, it will ask for the password, and once I have provided that, it will create a session using the connect handler function of the NetMiko library. It will create a session, and on that session I will send a show command. that is the show IP interface brief command, and I'll take the output. Okay, and I'll just print that output for you to see on the screen. Okay, so for now I'm doing that. There are some extra steps which I am not showing you right now, but I'll show you later on. Okay, so let me run this script, and it is asking for my username, and that is Python, and the password is also Python. So once I do that, it basically accessed the router and it ran that show IP interface brief command, and here you can see is the output of the show IP interface brief. Okay, and it has been printed out on the screen. But now you can say that okay, SSH is good enough, I can access the show IP interface brief, but what is the problem with that? Okay, what is the problem with that output? The problem is that let's say for some let's say I have to create a report, okay, or let's say I have to create some kind of a database on my PC, okay, in which I need to have a database that which particular interface has which particular IP address on a device. Okay, and I have to do that for all the devices in my network. So in that case, if I use SSH or if I use SSH, or if I basically use netmiko library, what will happen is this output that I'm getting out of the device, okay, this output is basically a complete block of text. Okay, just like I ran the show IP interface brief output here, in that same way it was executed by my script also, and this complete block of text was given out to me. Okay, now from this complete block of text, if I want to access individual interfaces and their particular IP addresses, it becomes a difficult task for me. Okay, now to be able to do that, I have to go through a very lengthy process where I will have to use things like regular expressions and similar other things to be able to go through this output line by line and be able to extract that particular field of data. Okay, and why this problem is there? Because this particular output was primarily made for humans to read. Okay, primarily made for us to read. Okay, because we just want to have a look at that information and just look at some information out of it, and based on that, maybe if this is the, let's say this is the IP address we were looking for and this is the interface that has it, then we would just copy this interface from the command line and execute our next command and so on. Okay, and we'll look for some more details about gigabit Ethernet 0x0. Okay, so that is very good for human consumption. But what if, like, for either for creating a report or maybe for taking some further action, that is if this is the interface which is having some issues and I want to automatically, using a script, I want to shut this interface down so that my traffic then gets forwarded from a different interface, or maybe if I want to shut down this interface so that the BGP protocol automatically chooses to go through the second path that is available, because this particular path has a lower quality at this point of time, because maybe there are certain drops. Okay, but those drops are not being taken care of by the BGP protocols, because these drops are intermittent. So BGP protocol has a wait timer and therefore it does not go down, but my customers are suffering because of that. Okay, so I got to know somehow through my management systems that this link is not suitable enough. So I will have to find out this interface to be able to do that. Okay, now that task is pretty difficult when you use something like regular expressions. Okay, so what I've done is I've written this piece of code, okay, where I have written a complete regular expression, okay, that will help me to extract the interface name from a particular line of this text, then the interface IP, then the admin status, then the physical status of that interface. And in this particular case, I'm not doing anything funny. I'm just trying to print it out again on the screen. Okay, so what I'll do is this time I'll not print the output that I'm receiving from the device itself, but I will print out the processed output that my script is processing. Okay, so as you can see, I have custom headings, that is interface name, interface IP, admin status, physical status, whereas you have all these extra columns also in the case of the normal output. Okay, so let's run this particular script now. Okay, so if I run it again with the new changes, let's see the output that I get. Okay, now again I'm able to access all the interfaces which have an IP address on them. Whatever the admin status of those interfaces is, whatever the physical status of those interfaces is, I'm able to access that. Okay, for only the interfaces which have an IP address on them, because that is how I built my regular expression. Okay, so that it can identify the interfaces with the IP address on them. Okay, now the problem is, first of all, I have to have an extra understanding about regular expressions. Okay, number two is that this particular regular expression that I have built for show IP interface brief will not necessarily work with some other show command. Okay, so if I were to execute, if I wanted to extract the data out of, let's say, show interface description command, then in that case I will have to write a completely new code, because this particular piece of code can only parse or only extract the details out of show IP interface brief commands output. Okay, similarly, the I have basically in this regular expression provided support for only two types of interfaces. Okay, that is this particular regular expression, if I give it an output which has, let's say, 10 gigabit Ethernet interface, or which has only an Ethernet interface, or maybe a fast Ethernet interface, in that case this regular expression will fail. So I will have to again basically modify this regular expression to be able to support all kinds of interfaces. Now you just imagine, and even if I get an interface which has a sub interface, like if it has dot something, dot 1, dot 2, then again it will fail. So just imagine that how many types of permutations and combinations there can be in the case of just Cisco with the number of with the types of interfaces names. Okay, so that is basically the problem with parsing this kind of data. Okay, so it is not the most efficient way of doing it, because this particular CLI, as you can basically the CLI was not built for machines to work with the router. Okay, so in this case basically this Python script is also acting as a machine only. Okay, a basic machine which has only one task, that is to extract the IP interface brief data. But it was basically CLI was meant for humans to interact with it, and that is why this kind of problems are there. Although we can overcome these problems with by being a little more smart about it, and we can find our workarounds and all those things, but it is very, very tedious. I will have to write a lot of lines of code to be able to deal with these problems. Okay, I will have to write hundreds or even thousands of lines of code to be able to deal with every individual command. Like if I have to write, like I guess this is like 10 lines of code. So if I had to write even 10 lines of code, which is obviously not the case for all commands, because there are certain commands which have a lot of information in them. Okay, so to be able to extract all that information from all those commands, you can take a good guess that what is the amount of code that I will have to write. Okay, so it is a very big task, okay, in itself. So that is why this is not the way we are going to proceed. And very quickly people in the networking industry came to know that this is not the best way to deal with this, and that is why API came into the picture. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to access my CSR router again, which is also a normal router, okay, which can also be accessed by anyone using the command line interface, okay, where you can run your show commands, you can configure that router using the CLI, and you can do everything just like the normal IOS router on the CSR router also using the CLI. But here it also provides us an extra feature, that is of the REST API. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the requests library of Python, which basically makes your PC as a HTTP client. Okay, so whenever we are going through any like this particular browser that I'm using to access the lab, so even this browser makes your PC an HTTP client. Okay, so in a similar way we can use Python requests library to make our PC to make our PC act like a client, an HTTP client. And this time I'm accessing the host 25.192.168.25.100, which belongs to the CSR router. So if I just run show IP interface brief, you can see that 192.168.25.100 belongs to the CSR router. Okay, so I'm going to access it on that IP. The port, as you can see, 443 is the HTTPS port number. The username is Amit and password is Cisco, the basic details. Okay, and as you can see, this is the URL that I am using, which has something to do. At this point I don't have the time to explain everything about this URL, but as you can see, it looks pretty much like any website's URL. Okay, and I'm using this particular URL to access the interfaces data, okay, on the device. Okay, now this time with that URL I'm passing in some additional HTTP headers, and I'm basically sending a GET request to this device, and I'll be getting a certain response. And out of that response will have a status code, like just like any HTTP status codes. If you are aware, there any good status code starts with 200, lies in the 200 series. Bad status codes lie generally in the 400 series and 500 series if you are getting any kind of an error. So most of you might have come across 404 error when you try to access any website, and if that website is down for some reason, you will get a 404 error. So similarly here also you will get those status codes. Okay, and then whatever the response is there, the text that is there in the response, that I will be returning to this particular variable interfaces. Okay, and just to show you, I'll be printing it out, and I will also be saving it in a file. Okay, so this is the file. Currently it is empty, and once I've run this script, you will be able to see data in this particular file. Okay, and I'll show you the kind of data that I'm receiving this time from the device. Okay, so as you can see, I have done nothing special on the data till now. I'll be writing the raw data, the raw JSON data that I'm receiving from the device into this file, and then what I'll be doing is I'll be using the JSON library that is there in Python to basically convert that JSON data into a Python dictionary. Okay, just to confirm that it is a Python dictionary, I will be printing out the type of that data on the terminal, so you can see that also. Then I will basically, this particular portion of code, what it does is it parses the dictionary data. Okay, and once you parse that dictionary data, I'll explain this code once we are done running this. So let me run this quickly. Okay, so as you can see, this is the complete data that we got. If I go to my file, this is the data that we have received from the device. So now you can see, I'll put this data on the side. Okay, so this is the raw data that we got. Okay, interfaces data, which is in the interfaces variable. So this is the data that we got, and as you can see, this data is organized very much, it is very different from the CLI data. But here in this also, we are getting that similar kind of data about that interface. That is, we are getting the IP address, we are getting the subnet mask, we are getting the type of that interface. It is an Ethernet kind of an interface. What is the name of that interface? Then we are getting the information if this particular interface is enabled or not. It means that manually or administratively it is unshut or not. So enabled true means that it is no shutdown. Okay, so basically this interface is active, you can say, from an administrative point of view. Similarly, we are getting for gigabit Ethernet 2, gigabit Ethernet 3, 4, and we have one more interface, loopback 120 on the router, which has these IP address details. The type of this interface is a software loopback. So we are getting all these details, basic details about the interfaces, but this time this information is given to us in JSON format, which is very easily convertible to a Python dictionary. Okay, now what is the benefit of that converting? As you can see, when I printed out the type, it prints out dict. Okay, so which stands for dictionary in Python. So we are converting that information into a Python dictionary. Now, since Python dictionary, as the name itself has Python in it, it is a Pythonic object. Okay, so if anything is already in a format that is very easy for Python to work with, you will obviously get the benefit of that. Okay, so as we can see, we can very easily parse through that dictionary and extract different pieces of information that are there. Like for every single interface, I want to access the name. Okay, I want to access the name of that interface, I want to access the IP address, I want to access the net mask, and in case if a particular interface does not have an IP address, like in this case for gigabit Ethernet 4, it does not have an IPv4 or an IPv6 address, I want to print out these two particular strings, that is no IPv4 and no mask in that in the place, and then I want to print out the status of that interface. Okay, if the status is enabled or not. Basically true means enabled and disabled. So I was able to very easily parse that particular dictionary and was able to extract all that data, and I did not have to go through the hurdle of learning regular expressions or things like that. Okay, and these scripts are basically very easy to write. Once you will learn Python with us, you will see that if you are trying to work with a piece of text, it is very difficult to parse, whereas if you are working with a Python dictionary or a Python list or a Python tuple or some other type of Python object, it is very easily to work with. It is very easy to work with in Python. Okay, because these are Python objects. So basically what is happening here is that the devices are taking a step forward and providing you with the data that we were wanting to access earlier also in a new kind of format, which is very easy for other machines to work with. Okay, so I could very easily write this piece of script, and generally this particular amount of data had this particular amount number of lines had to be written only to print it out on the screen like this. If I just had to access a particular interface and basically access the IP address and maybe do something with it going further, maybe shut it down or unshut it, depending on my scenario or my requirement, it would have been very easy. I would not have to write even these many number of lines. Okay, these lines have just been written to be able to print it out on the screen. So basically this is not something you'll be doing all the time. So otherwise, just with like only you can say just around 20 to 30 lines, with just 20 to 30 lines of code, I was able to get that data and was also able to do a lot of things with it, because that data was given to me in a supportive or in a very helpful manner using the JSON format. Okay, so that is where the industry is heading, slowly and steadily, and that is why exams like N auto have come into existence. And slowly you will see that, and not slowly, but in today's date, if you open any exams syllabus, you will see some portion of these technologies mentioned in there. Okay, even if you open the CCNA exam today, or like in CCNP, the basic exam also has a portion for automation or a section for automation, and they have this special exam N auto, which is completely for learning automation only. And even the CCI has that. And not just about the routing switching domain, if you go into any of the domains, and now they have even come out with the DevNet certification, which is completely focused on network developers, okay, who want to do development with the network, on the network. Okay, so this is what I had to present to you. So if any of you have any questions, you can raise your hands at this point and I will unmute you, okay, for asking the questions. Anybody? Yes, Vidyut, you can unmute.
Hello, Amit. Hi.
Yeah, hi Vidyut.
Yeah. So I just have one query. So is it the Ansible also added in this course, or only it's for only Python?
Yeah, good question. Basically, in Ansible itself is quite a topic. Okay, it is a large topic. So in the syllabus of N auto, the introduction or a basic understanding of Ansible has to be given, but we will go a little bit ahead of that. I will show you the setup of Ansible, and I will also show you how to do certain basic tasks with Ansible, so that you have a much better understanding of Ansible. But obviously we have to cover up the complete N auto syllabus, so I cannot dig too deep into Ansible, okay, in this course. Yeah.
Okay, so basic only
Yeah.
you covered.
Yes. Yeah, because if you we are not going we are going to do basics of Ansible, but we are going to go deep into Python. Okay, so if you know Python, and the amount of information that I'll give you about Ansible, both of these will be much more than enough. And after that, you can just go through any course, and even I will be coming out with an Ansible course going further. If you just have both of these, you will very easily learn Ansible. Even if you go through the documentation of Ansible, you will be able to learn Ansible after that. You will be at such a point. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So it's after finish this course, we can move to Cisco DevNet certification, like
Yeah, you this
associate.
this particular course is focused on N auto. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go for the N auto exam, obviously, but for the DevNet certification, there are still some more topics that have to be covered.
Yeah, some
So yeah,
application
but
things
you will be, I can say that you will be in a position to learn those
to
topics yourself.
prepare. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay, thanks a lot, Amit.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vidyut. Yes. Yeah, and one more thing, you can ask questions in Hindi also if you're comfortable in that. Okay. Yes, Santosh.
Yeah, hi, Amit or
Yes.
Aditya. Yeah, Amit. It's yeah. Is this it will only cover the ENT auto, or it will cover the some of the Python basics part about, yeah.
Yes, yes,
What
good.
about
Very,
list?
very, yeah, very good question. So basically, the starting of this course, the first module will be completely about Python, okay, and Python will slowly the further part of it, okay. Like if I'll be talking about Meraki, or if I'll be talking about automation of SD-WAN, or if I'll be talking about automation of DNA center, okay. Those examples will also be presented using Python scripts only. So we'll be writing Python scripts for those things also. So first we'll be learning the basics, and we will be using those basics and that knowledge to directly start automating all these technologies. Okay, so this is you can say a complete Python course only, but it has some additional points where you will be able to use that Python directly, to work with these different technologies that are coming out of the Cisco house. Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's basically a Cisco kind of thing, or can we use it for any other
Yeah,
vendors
yeah.
also? So the
Yes, yes,
course
yes, yes.
can be like open,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Open
I'll be
systems.
telling, yeah, in between I'll be telling you the specific things that you have to take care when you want to use it for other vendors also. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in my profession, yeah, what we are doing is that we deal with the Juniper and the Nexus,
Yes, yes, yes,
and
yes.
also EX series switches and Cisco.
Yes,
Even
yes,
HP
yes.
switches are there.
Yeah, I got your point. Yeah, obviously, I'll be telling you what things have to be changed in your script to be able to work with other vendors also. Okay, or any kind of device, most network devices and most network vendors. Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because these days we have to deal with the rollouts.
Yes, yes, yes.
So in number of
Even I am a network engineer with over 10 years of experience, and I worked with most of the mainstream vendors. So I understand your point very much.
yeah, because of the rollouts only, yeah,
Yeah,
we need to learn
yeah,
this kind of stuff.
yeah,
As
yeah,
you said, to save time.
yeah.
Same time we can connect multiple devices and do changes.
Yes,
That
yes,
is what
yes.
our main intention. So
Yeah,
I hope we could able to write some scripts to get some data after this course.
yeah, yeah. Sure. Yes, Pratik.
Yeah, hello. So my question is it beneficial for the auditors also?
Yes, yes, yes. Basically, as I told you in the beginning of the course, you
Mhm,
are accessing devices to
mhm,
do two things, either of the two things. That is either to get some information or push some information on the device. Okay.
mhm,
So
mhm.
even an auditor has to get some information, right? You most probably will be preparing reports and things like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So yes, we'll be doing that. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Sarosh.
Yeah, hi, Amit. Amit, can you just let us know the course content?
Yeah, so basically, we once you will be joining, will be giving you the complete syllabus. But you can right now also you can go through the NAuto syllabus. You just type in CCNP NAuto, ENAUTO. Okay, on Google, and you'll get the syllabus. We'll be following that syllabus only on even before going through that syllabus, we will be having an extra module focused on Python. Okay, got it, Sarosh? Is it clear?
Any prerequisite required for this one? Like, do I need to go some to have some any basic
No,
knowledge on the
I'll
Python?
be, yeah, I
You
will
suggest
be.
something like some contents so that we should go through before starting of the course?
Well, I would say, obviously, for your if you want to go through things, you can go through. There are a lot of websites related to Python stuff. Okay, I don't have anything specific in my mind, but let me tell you very clearly that we will be starting from the very basic. Okay, because I know that most of us are not programmers by profession, we are network engineers. So I will cover that ground for you. Okay, so let's move on to Jay.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yes, sir. What will be the duration for this?
Yeah, it will be we will be doing this on weekends, that is on Saturday and Sunday. So 2 hours daily. So with that, like basically we are covering, we are doing like 4 hours in a week, and that will be the average. So we can go anywhere from 2.5 to 3 months. Okay, so because it is just the weekends. Is it clear, Jay?
Yes, sir. It is. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, I'm Altamise. I know the other guy asked before if we need to have any Python experience, but I didn't hear you. Do we need to have basic Python experience, or will you go through the basics with us?
No. As I told you earlier also, I totally understand that 99%, or I would say even more than that, of you are like network engineers by profession and would have no experience in Python. Okay, so I will be starting from the very, very, very basic. Okay, even the installation of Python on your PCs would be done in the class only. Okay. Is it okay, Altamise, if I pronounce that right?
Yes, it is right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? You'll have to raise your hand. Okay, so I guess there is something in the chat also. So I guess, Sam, your answer is also, your question is also answered. Hours, duration, I think we've answered all that. Yeah. Okay, then in that case, let's close this session, and I hope you all of you guys know where to reach out to enroll for this course. The phone numbers and the details will be given in the description of this YouTube video, and you can just go to our website. You'll find the details there. You'll just have to contact with the administration team at Networkings, and they'll help you further with that. Okay, so I guess we can close at this point. If you have any further questions also, they can help you out with that also. Okay, so okay, some more people are coming in. Yes, Gulam, quickly.
Hey, I just need 2 minutes. So like you're saying you will be starting from the very, very basics of the Python, right? Then see 4 hours a week, and 50 hours, I mean, to most, right? If I
Yeah.
consider 6 months,
Yeah.
you still think it would be the sufficient if you
Yeah, yeah,
start from
more
scratch
than
and then
sufficient. More
no.
than sufficient, yes.
See, from your perspective, it could be sufficient. Like
Yeah.
you could be following your,
Yeah, so
uh,
you will basically, after that 4 hours, you have like 5 days in between. Okay.
yes.
So all you have to do during the duration of the course is you have to go through the videos and just repeat or just practice the stuff that is being explained in the videos, and you will be good enough to follow along. Okay.
But that's what, no, it depends on the content, right? If the content in 4 hours you'll be covering is huge, so like, I mean, for
Yeah, so
all
Gulam,
of
in
us,
that
right?
case, I have just, I can answer that with only one thing, and that is with experience. I have been teaching this course for almost over maybe 3 years now. Okay.
Mhm.
So, most of the comments have been good only. So I think that will answer your question. Okay. People
Okay.
have been able to learn a lot at the end. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Dharmender, quickly. Do you
What
have a
about the
different
job?
question?
And what about the job opportunity after this course?
Yeah, that obviously, if you go through any, job description that is coming out even for network engineers nowadays, you will somewhere in there you will find these keywords of automation, keywords like Python, keywords like Ansible, keywords like Auto, these certifications and all these things. You will start to find those in most of the job descriptions that are coming out even for network engineers today. Okay, I have not come prepared to show you something on that grounds, but yeah, you can find that, and that is why people are there in this call in the first place, right, Dharmender? Yes, Abhipraya.
Hello, sir. This is a part of CCNP course or it is a separate course?
Yeah, in CCNP there is one separate exam, and auto. I guess you can just go through the Cisco learning website to learn more about that. Okay.
Okay, it's a
So
part
yeah,
of CCNP.
yeah, it's part of CCNP. That one additional exam that you have to give, it is one of those. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay, fine then. Let's close this.